Here is a powerful, emotional story of hidden valor and quiet dignity. In the gleaming hallways of Naval Base Coronado, a man pushed his cleaning cart through corridors echoing with rank and privilege. No one looked twice at him except a little boy who held his hand and called him Dad. Alexander Alex Sullivan moved like a ghost among warriors, invisible to those who passed him daily. Yet beneath his janitor's uniform lay the heart of a legend, a former Navy SEAL whose call sign, though a lone wolf, once struck both fear and reverence in the most dangerous corners of the world. The morning sun glinted off the San Diego coastline as Alex guided his mop across the polished floor outside the command center. His movements were efficient, economical, the same precision he once applied to combat operations now directed toward keeping the base spotless. 8-year-old Noah Williams sat nearby, homework spread across a bench, tongue caught between teeth in concentration. The boy's sandy hair caught the light, a painful reminder of his father. Marcus, Alex's former teammate, best friend, and the love Alex had kept hidden during the dark years of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Daddy, look, Noah held up a drawing of what appeared to be a wolf standing over a smaller wolf. It's you protecting me. Alex's weathered face softened as he set down his mop and knelt beside his son. This moment was worth every sacrifice, every medal he'd walked away from. A group of young SEAL candidates strutted past, laughing. Dude, he's here again. You'd think the Navy would hire someone who didn't look like he crawled out of a mountain cabin. Alex didn't flinch. He'd learned long ago that when you truly know who you are, you don't need to prove it to anyone. A voice cut through the hallway, crisp and commanding. Eyes forward, move. The candidates immediately stiffened. Admiral James Harper stepped past them, posture perfect beneath his impeccable uniform. For just a moment, his gaze lingered on Alex, noticing the posture, the quiet discipline, the way he moved like someone who once led men into battle rather than cleaning up after them. Something didn't fit. He looked again, puzzled. Then duty pulled him forward. Before you continue this emotional journey of honor, fatherhood, and redemption, make sure to subscribe to Heart Stories so you never miss another tale that reminds us how the quietest heroes often carry the heaviest burdens. The story of the lone wolf has only just begun, and his greatest battle isn't behind him. It's raising a son in a world that doesn't yet understand that true courage comes in many forms. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the base playground as children shouted and chased each other on jungle gyms shaped like submarines and helicopters. Navy parents, most in uniform, watched from benches. And then there was Alex, standing a little apart, lunchbox in one hand, posture calm as the ocean after a storm. Noah swung high, legs kicking the air, blonde hair flying behind him like a banner of joy. His giggles rose above the noise. Pure, unfiltered youth in a place built on discipline and sacrifice. Two Navy mothers whispered nearby. That's the janitor's kid. Shame. He's sweet. The dad seems rough, though. Probably a dishonorable discharge or something. Alex heard every word. His expression remained unchanged. But behind his eyes, storms gathered. Noah ran to him suddenly, cheeks flushed from play. Dad, I beat everyone in tag, even the big boys. Alex knelt, brushing a leaf from his son's hair. That's my boy, he murmured, fast as the wind. Later that evening, as Alex prepared dinner in their modest base housing unit, his mind drifted to Marcus. They had met during Bud's training, the brutal qualification course that forges SEALs from ordinary men. During the infamous Hell Week, when others broke under the relentless pressure, Alex and Marcus had found strength in each other. Their relationship grew in the shadows. Stolen moments between deployments, coded messages, separate apartments maintained for appearances. The military's don't ask, don't tell policy had forced them to live a fractured existence. The memories shifted to their final mission together in Afghanistan. Operation Red Wing, the helicopter extraction gone wrong. Marcus pushing Alex from the path of incoming fire. The last words he'd spoken, Noah, promise me. And Alex had promised, to love and raise Marcus's son as his own, even if it meant walking away from the only life he'd known. Alex was stirred from his memories by Noah tugging his sleeve. "Are you thinking about Papa again?" The boy had Marcus's intuition, that ability to see beneath surfaces. "Yes," Alex admitted. "He would be so proud of you." Noah smiled, but there was a shadow behind his eyes. The weight of growing up different in a world that valued conformity. At school, other children asked why he had two dads, and now just one. Their confusion often turned to cruelty. The next morning, Admiral James Harper was reviewing personnel files when he came across an incident report, a minor altercation in the mess hall. Quickly resolved. What caught his attention was the janitor's response. Alexander Sullivan had diffused a potentially violent situation with 3 drunk contractors with calm authority, fuzz, and minimal force. No ordinary janitor possessed those skills. James pulled up the base employment records, finding only basic information. Sullivan's military record, if one existed, was sealed. James had his own secrets, a failed marriage that had ended when he could no longer deny his attraction to men. Years spent building walls around his personal life to protect his career. Perhaps that's why Sullivan intrigued him. He recognized the careful movements of a man carrying hidden parts of himself through hostile territory. What neither man yet realized was how their paths were destined to intersect, proving that some battles can't be fought alone, and that healing often comes from the most unexpected sources. For in a world that taught them both to hide, the greatest act of courage would be allowing themselves to be seen. The morning of the Naval Base Coronado's annual review dawned bright and ceremonial. Flags snapped in the ocean breeze, dress whites gleamed under the California sun, and Admiral Christopher Marshall preened at the center of it all, his chest decorated with medals, his voice booming across the parade grounds as he addressed gathered dignitaries and press. Alex worked silently in the background, preparing the mess hall for the reception that would follow. Noah sat at a corner table, working on a school project, a report about heroes. He'd chosen to write about Navy SEALs, unaware of the painful irony. Alex occasionally glanced his way, heart swelling with both pride and apprehension. How long before Noah discovered the truth about his adopted father's past? The ceremony concluded, and personnel flowed into the mess hall. Admiral Marshall entered, surrounded by an entourage of junior officers and photographers. His eyes landed on Alex, and a smirk curled his lips. "Look at our wilderness janitor," he announced loudly. "Probably the closest he's ever been to real service members." Laughter rippled through his followers. Noah looked up, confused by the sudden tension. Alex simply placed a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder, focusing on his work rather than responding. But Marshall wasn't finished. Emboldened by his audience, he approached their table directly. "What's your story anyway?" Janitor failed the ASVAB, couldn't hack basic training. The room quieted, uncomfortable with the public humiliation, yet unwilling to intervene. Noah's shoulders hunched protectively, small fists clenching on the table. Marshall noticed the boy's SEAL project and laughed. "Kid, well, you're better off finding a different hero. Your dad here wouldn't know the first thing about being a warrior." Noah stood suddenly, protective instinct overriding his shyness. "Don't talk to my dad like that." His voice trembled, but held firm. "Your dad." Marshall's eyebrows rose mockingly. "What was your call sign? Janitor, mop bucket?" The mess hall fell silent. Admiral James Harper, entering through a side door, froze mid-step. He sensed the dangerous shift in the atmosphere, the kind of tension that preceded violence. Alex wiped his hands slowly on a towel. His voice, when it finally came, was quiet, yet carried to every corner of the room. "Lone Wolf." Those 2 words landed like thunder in the silence. Veterans stiffened. A fork clattered to the floor. Someone inhaled sharply. Lone Wolf, the SEAL Team 6 operator who had survived the disastrous Operation Red Wing extraction, carrying 2 wounded teammates through enemy territory for 3 days before reaching safety. The man who had received the Navy Cross but disappeared from service shortly after. The ghost whose actual identity had been classified. Marshall's face drained of color. That's impossible, he sputtered. Lone Wolf was standing right in front of you, James finished, stepping forward. I believe we owe Mr. Sullivan our respect. Admiral Marshall. The revelation spread through the room like wildfire. Young SEALs stood straighter, instinctively recognizing the presence of a legend. Noah stared at his father, confusion and awe dawning on his face. Dad. Alex knelt before his son, cupping his small face gently. I was Lone Wolf a long time ago. Now I'm just your dad, and that's all that matters. Later, as the mess hall emptied and the whispers followed them through corridors, James found Alex in a quiet corner of the base, looking out over the Pacific. Why did you walk away? He asked simply. Alex's gaze remained on the horizon. Marcus Williams was my partner, in every sense of the word. When he died saving me, he asked me to raise his son. The Navy wasn't ready for a gay SEAL with an adopted child, so I made a choice. James absorbed this in silence, then shared his own truth about his failed marriage, his years of denial, the loneliness of command. Two warriors, carrying different wounds from the same war, finally seeing each other clearly in the fading light of a day that had changed everything. The invitation came 3 days after the revelation, a simple note asking Alex and Noah to join Admiral James Harper for dinner at his home. Alex hesitated, protective instincts warring with the undeniable connection he'd felt during their conversation. Noah made the decision for him, excited by the prospect of hearing Navy stories. James's house was officers' quarters, modest but elegant, with windows overlooking the ocean and walls adorned with subtle naval memorabilia. He greeted them in civilian clothes, jeans and a simple button-down that softened his usual commanding presence. The atmosphere was tentative at first, 3 people circling each other with careful conversation over homemade lasagna. Noah gradually relaxed, his natural curiosity emerging. Were you a SEAL too? He asked James between bites. Not quite, James smiled. I was with naval intelligence, but I worked with SEAL teams occasionally. He glanced at Alex, something unspoken passing between them. Including your father's team. Though I didn't know he was Lone Wolf then, the mission was compartmentalized. We only knew call signs. Alex's fork paused midway to his mouth. Operation Kingfisher, he said quietly. Strait of Hormuz. James nodded, surprise evident. You remember? I never forget the faces of men who watch my back. Alex replied simply. As Noah helped clear the table, James led Alex to his study, closing the door partially. On the desk lay a folder, classified documents with most details redacted. I pulled what I could on Red Wing, James explained. I wanted to understand. Alex's hand trembled slightly as he touched the papers. For years, he'd carried the memories alone. The helicopter crash, Marcus pushing him clear of the RPG blast, the desperate 3-day trek through hostile territory with 2 wounded teammates. The moment he'd returned to base to learn that Marcus's body couldn't be recovered. I loved him, Alex said, voice raw with emotion he rarely allowed himself. Not just as a teammate, we were together for 3 years, hiding everything because of don't ask, don't tell. When he died, I couldn't even grieve openly. He described returning from Afghanistan to find Noah with a foster family, fighting through legal barriers to fulfill his promise to Marcus. The Navy wouldn't recognize our relationship. I was nothing to them. Not a spouse, not family, just a teammate with no legal standing to claim his partner's child. Alex's voice tightened. So I resigned my commission, took a civilian job on base where I could stay close to what Marcus loved, and focused on being the father Noah deserved. James listened, recognition and understanding in his eyes. I spent 15 years married to a woman I respected, but couldn't love the way she deserved. He confessed. By the time I admitted the truth to myself, my career was everything. I couldn't risk losing it. His gaze met Alex's. Watching you choose Noah over everything, it made me question what I've been sacrificing for. Their conversation was interrupted by Noah's laughter from the living room. They found him examining James's collection of model ships, carefully arranged in a glass cabinet. "This one looks like a wolf," Noah said, pointing to a sleek attack vessel. "That's because it is. The USS Wolfhound," James explained, kneeling beside him. "Fast and fearless, just like your dad." Over the following weeks, something shifted on base. Alex still pushed his mop through the same corridors, but now personnel nodded respectfully as he passed. Young SEALs sought him out for quiet advice. Noah walked taller, pride replacing his former hesitancy. James became a regular presence in their lives. Sunday barbecues, helping Noah with school projects, quiet evenings on the porch watching the sunset, two damaged men healing through shared understanding, and a boy flourishing in the warmth of their emerging bond. It wasn't just about romance. It was about creating family from the fragments of loss, proving that sometimes our greatest wounds lead us to our most profound connections. Morning in Coronado carried a particular stillness, the calm breath before military precision resumed its daily rhythm. Today, however, felt different. American flags snapped smartly in the ocean breeze as Alex and Noah approached the base entrance. Noah clutched a lunch pack, chatting about how dolphins should receive tiny Navy medals for bravery. They rounded the corner and stopped short. The walkway ahead was lined on both sides with sailors, Marines, and officers in dress uniforms, forming a path leading from the gates to the heart of the base. At the front stood Admiral James Harper, cap tucked under his arm. Beside him, looking distinctly uncomfortable, stood Admiral Christopher Marshall. Emma gasped. "Dad, what's happening?" Alex stood motionless, shock evident in his usually composed features. Then, as one, every service member raised their hand in salute, not for Lone Wolf the legend, but for Alexander Sullivan, the man who had chosen love over glory. A chief petty officer stepped forward. "Sir, some men serve a nation by leading warriors, and some serve by raising one." Another voice added, "You remind us there is more than one kind of battlefield and more than one kind of hero." James approached, eyes warm with emotion rarely displayed in uniform. "A warrior protects his country," he said softly, glancing at Noah before meeting Alex's gaze again. "A father protects its future." Admiral Marshall cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Mr. Sullivan," he began stiffly, "I spoke without knowledge or respect. For that, I offer my sincere apology." It wasn't eloquent, but it was genuine. A man facing his own prejudice and finding it wanting. What followed was unexpected. Marshall announced the establishment of the William Sullivan Program, an initiative providing support for LGBTQ+ service members and their families. "Your story will help ensure no one else faces the impossible choice between serving their country and being true to themselves," he concluded. As they walked through the honor guard, Noah suddenly stopped and turned to James. "You should walk with us," he said, reaching for James's hand. "Heroes shouldn't walk alone." James joined them, completing their small circle. They walked the final stretch together, father, son, and the man who had helped them rebuild what loss had broken. When they reached the end, applause rose, gentle, respectful, like waves on a calm shore. That evening, at a small ceremony in the base community center, Alex stood beside James as they officially launched the William Sullivan Program. Noah sat in the front row, beaming with pride as his father spoke briefly about courage in its many forms. "True strength," Alex said, "isn't measured by battles won, but by the love we dare to show even when it costs us everything." As the sun set over the Pacific, casting golden light across the base, Alex, Noah, and James walked along the shore. Noah ran ahead, chasing waves, while the two men followed at a slower pace, shoulders occasionally brushing. "What happens now?" Alex asked quietly. James smiled. "Whatever we build together," he replied, his hand finding Alex's between them. Sometimes the greatest acts of heroism aren't performed on battlefields, but in the quiet moments when we choose love over fear, truth over safety, family over expectations. The lone wolf had found his pack at last. If this story touched your heart, or reminded you of someone who found courage to be their authentic self, we'd love to hear about it. What sacrifices have you witnessed for the sake of family and love? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And subscribe to Heart Stories for more tales that remind us how the human spirit triumphs even in the most challenging circumstances.